right, I turned the manifold right side out, and even though it was puckered a little bit, it looks fine. So I have to put that aside too. What I forgot to mention was when I was, is that you need to leave an opening for your hands so you can turn this right side out when you're finished. The stitch witchery certainly made it easier to do the edge without it puckering. But now we get to see how that works out. All right, I'm going to cut off the excess fabric. Any fabric that may go into the seam or beyond the seam. I don't know how much of this is in my picture, in your picture. Very little of it. Sorry. Is that better? All I'm doing here is cutting the fabric off the excessive fabric off the end. Don't think there's any excess here, but I do think I need to take a little bit off of this because that's hanging into the space. And same here. Because as I say, everything shifts. So and definitely down this end. I think that's all right. Now the bottom, I left an opening in the back. So we can turn this. Now, I left an opening for my hand to turn. First of all, I have to find where I left the opening because I don't see it there. Is this it? No, it's right here. It's not. But I still stitch witched it closed, so I need to open the stitch witchery here, which isn't a problem. The stitch witchery will catch in the nap, but it's in the seam allowance, so that should be okay. All right, so let's see here. I want to cut my corners off. That's one. Why don't we cut them before we try turning it? There's a lot of excess fabric on this side here. Somehow I missed this. Okay, in this corner. Some people leave their openings at a corner. I've never been able to do that and get it to look square when it's done. So I usually leave my openings somewhere along the middle of the line. Now see, this is only attached at the applique, so once we get it turned, I'll have to flatten it out in there. Here's the opening. Okay, so let's turn this. So I'll turn you at the same time. See some stitch witchery showing here. Not a problem, I can just hit it with the iron, it would take that off. And the other corner over here. Alright, now I have to straighten this interlining out. Now, I'm going to have to probably hand sew this. I could sew it with the machine, but because, again, the problem with the puckering, I'll just hand sew it. And I'm going to turn this over and iron it flat, and that should take care of any stitch witchery that's sticking out around the edges. Probably going to have to clean my iron off after this one. Picking up a lot of stitch witchery. Alright, I need to do that side when it's in front of me because it's where the opening is. Turn this around this way, and this corner's still out. Come on. That's better. Okay, so one here. course it is. Okay. Now I pulled it up. I have to put it back down. Okay, so there, and there, and there. And here. This is the opening, so I need a couple of pins here. And there's a lot of stitch witchery on this edge, but it'll all disappear with the iron. See, yep, oops. He melted all that stitch witchery. Okay, so. Now this, I do need to come back and sew. Some pins there. And looks nice. Alright, so I'll put that aside for hand finishing over here. And this one, alright, now this one, stole. Excessive fabric, let's cut it off. Got enough in the what I did was, when I went to sew this, because of the stitch witchery, and it gave a nice place to sew on, it didn't roll up or anything, but I wanted to make sure that I was at the edge of the inside edge of the stitch witchery, the outside edge I didn't care that much about. In other words, I wanted to be close. I didn't want any stitch witchery sticking through to the other side. So the stitch witchery is here, and it's a 1/2 inch stitch witchery. So I put the foot so that it would run on the edge of the velvet, and the needle as far as it would go in whichever direction I was sewing. In this case it would be as far as direction this way, and on this side it would be as far as it would go that way, so that it was at a 1/2 inch. And so with the foot running on the stitch witchery and the needle going up and down right at the edge of the stitch witchery, sometimes even over it, wherever went over it you get little tiny puckers, but not much. I was able to do it. It turned out at least decent. I hope. I haven't turned it right side out yet. Okay, this is too big. Same on this side. Might as well cut it down now. That's better. Alright, and on this side, doesn't need much off of it. Most of those puckers are not, if there are any, are right at the edge, and they, once it's turned, I think they'll kind of blend in. Come on here, let's see. Okay, let's see here if any of this needs to be cut. A little bit at the bottom here, and a lot on this side. Just at the edge. Maybe inside the edge. Okay. So, okay, now we get to turn this one. Now where these appliques are, they get tricky because it's so stiff. Normally they're not stiff. This one's stiff as cardboard and it's not a lot of space, but once you get past it, it should be fine. Okay, now till I get to the other end anyway. I did a white velvet vestment last week, 2 weeks ago, and I videoed it because it's something I'm going to be selling on Etsy. The fabric, it's already. You don't need a pattern to do it. You just cut it out and sew it together. You have to put, you have to add the lining and all the other things, but you don't need a pattern. The fabric is there, and the appliques are already down. The cross and crown is already, the column and cross are already on it. So you just need the edge trim, if you're doing edge trim, and the lining and the elastic and the mat boards, and that's pretty much about it. Anyway, I decided to get it on velvet because I wanted to see what it would look like on velvet. It comes on different fabrics. You can get any kind of fabric you want. I would say any kind, anything that I've listed. Cotton, velvet, satin, cotton sateen. Has to be within a certain length, and those are the fabrics. There's a cotton canvas, I think, and a Belgium linen. And also a cotton linen blend. But I got it on the velvet. All right, now we got the applique up as far as the center here, where it's narrow and it doesn't want to come through. Come on. Squeeze you a little bit here. There you go. But sewing, I sewed that whole vestment set and the pieces. It's a low nap velvet and I had no problem with it. I did the same thing as I did with this first, put the trim around the edge. I had no problems with it. It's just that this velvet is a high nap velvet, and that's what causes the other shifted a little bit, but not much. And in fact, it was, you could disregard it. Okay. Now straighten out and bend your back again. That's the other end. Let's straighten out this interlining in here. Okay. All right, now to go do the pressing thing with this. You can feel the interlining in there. And again, the stitch witchery is sticking out in some places. In other places it's not. Okay. Oops. There you go. I'm going to do it from this side. Put some stitch witchery on here, on the lining, which pulled up a little bit of the nap. But I have an adhesive eraser. I think we'll take that off. Yep. This is it's just latex rubber. This is used, they sell this in art stores. This is really used for taking up the masking stuff. But it's called an adhesive eraser, though mask is not really adhesive. But it works for taking up stitch witchery that's stuck in the wrong spot. It works very good for that. Somebody at one of my seminars had one, and she got stuff stuck somewhere, and she asked if it would work. I said, I've never heard of it. Let's try it. And yep, it worked really good. Alright, so the iron on the edges is taking away any stitch witchery that's there. Let's move this up a little bit. Do the next section. There's a little pucker there, but I think it'll iron out. Right there. It seems to press out, so there you go. Okay, so I'll put some pins just to hold it. Roll on there. Should I skip sections of these videos where I'm doing nothing but the same thing over and over again? It certainly might make them longer. Sometimes the first one I had to put in 2 parts because it ran an hour and 10 minutes, and I think the limit was an hour. At least on that one. YouTube doesn't seem to have a time limit thing on it. It would have, if I had put it on YouTube, it would have, I don't think I would have had a problem with it. But Daily Motion has, I think, a time limit. Come on. This is where this stitch witchery got, I sewed past, I didn't sew far enough into the stitch witchery or whatever, but it's there. And that's where this comes in handy. Getting the stitch witchery out there. Okay. I didn't clip curves. I forgot to clip the curves. I am not turning it back. This is so soft, I don't think it's going to matter. That velvet is so slippery and so soft, I think it'll go. It seems to be going without any problems. It just occurred to me that I didn't clip the curves. This lower edge, which is a little tighter, probably could be clipped, but Father's going to have to live with it. I doubt he'll even notice. There you go. Come on, get all of that stitch witchery away from there. Okay. Thread there. That needs to be cut. Okay, next section. I may have gotten that adhesive eraser from Amazon. could put fringe on the bottom of this, and I probably will, because I just like fringe. But I could just put some of this, and that would add a lot of weight, because that trim is heavy. You want something that gives it a little weight, and fringe tends to do that, which is, but that trim would do it too. May use both. Give them a lot of weight. I could have used the 1/4" steam seam in there, but I didn't think I would be able to find it, because you can't see it. You have to, and it's not like the trim where when you put the trim down, you know that if you sew on top of the trim, you're getting the steam seam underneath it. Here you couldn't tell where it lay between the 2 layers of fabric, so I used the other one, because that way, by putting it on the edge, I knew I would be a 1/2 inch. I'm not a perfectionist. I think in work categories there's four types of people. No, I'm not talking about personalities. What is it? Melancholic, choleric. No, I'm talking about there's 4 personalities in the workplace, and if a boss knows what type of personality his employees are, it will help him in dealing with them. And that they're perfectionists, strategists, enthusiasts, and pacifists. And yes, each of those groups probably falls into one of those categories of, but for example, your enthusiast is more of the, is very social. What is the personality that's social? I can't remember. Starts with an S. Where your pacifist is probably more the melancholic. But anyway, they don't have to be, but I am not a perfectionist. I'm a strategist. I mean, whatever, you can tell who they are by looking at their desks. A perfectionist has nothing on their desk. Everything is put away, strategists, their desks usually look like chaos, but they know where everything is. That's me. You look at when I put everything away, then I can't find anything again. But I do put things away occasionally. And then I have to learn all over again where they are. But I am not a perfectionist, so these little things don't bother me. It's whatever works. Whatever I need to do to get it to come down. That's a strategist. An enthusiast, in case you're wondering, they're the people who spend a lot of time talking to other people and not getting a whole lot of work done. They will get work done, but you usually have to convince them that, I mean, if you were the boss, you would, tell them, well, if you go back, I'll come over and talk to you, but not until you've gotten all this done. And then they'll do it. Where a pacifist, they want to, their desks usually have, you know, flowers and stuffed animals or pictures of, you know, nature around or whatever. They like to, they don't want anybody to make waves. They're always trying to make peace with all, that's why they're called pacifists, among all the different people in the group. And so, but anyway. All right, we just need to do the bottoms of these. I like that green. Would I ever use it again? Not on your life. Okay. This is the chalice veil. See, it's hand sewed. These two need fringe. Do I want to use this fringe or do I want to use the other fringe? I think this fringe is closer to that. The other fringe is closer to the and I don't need, even though this is, I don't need a lot. So let's lay this down. And now we've got stuff here that needs to go. I need to check this side of this thing. Let's do it from this side. Okay, got it. Yeah. All right, let's cut the excess fabric off the bottom. I might need to trim these up. We'll see. Oh, they look the same length. Okay, so we're going to turn about a 1/2 inch of this. I'm going to chalk a line just because I want to make sure it's a 1/2 inch. It's 3 inches down. So I need to put a light on. Oh, it's getting dark. Can't see. There'd be light. Does that affect you, the camera? All right. This isn't the same. Okay. So if I come to 2.5 here, I should be I don't know what I'm doing. I need to come just a 1/2, not because that's what I want to turn, is a 1/2 inch. And it's a 1/2 inch there. And this is a little longer. As is this. Okay, so 1/2 inch to that mark right there. Just hold on a second. And I just finished putting up a maniple, still a maniple video. It was on that white velvet that I was talking about. I'm putting that whole series up on YouTube. And Stitch Witchery, where did you go? Oh, it rolled over there. Okay, so I just stick a piece inside. And in there I was doing this with the steam seam. I said, no, that's stupid. I should be doing it with the Stitch Witchery. It's so much easier than trying to reach inside and pull the paper off. And it is. It's much better. This part of it anyway. Definitely want to use the steam seam for the fringe, but all right. I don't mind, that's where the fringe is going to go anyway. Okay. This one, same thing. Turn the ends. Turn the ends, put a pin. Then turn the middle and then fix the ends, because the ends will always change a little bit. Okay, put you in there. Now, turn the middle to that line. And then fix the end. All right, Stitch Witchery. Try to keep you there. Hit it with an iron in the seam allowance area. Okay. I have another fringe. I want to see if that one looks any better. No, I don't like that one. It's the orangish one. Okay, so steam a seam. Now I need to put back a little bit of paper on the end. So I'll take about 1/4 of an inch of this paper and just stick it back down it's tacky. The glue's tacky. So you can just stick it down on both ends. That's because I don't want the trim to stick, I don't want the fringe to stick there. I want to be able to turn it after I've got the fringe down. So that, and then I'm going to take the fringe, and fringe has bumps. I don't know what else you want to call them, but there's little bumps here. And you want to measure the fringe so you get 3 bumps, at least 2. I like to go through 2 to 3, past the edge. So there's 1, 2, 3 bumps past the edge. And the same on this side, 1, 2, 3 bumps. And that's where I want to cut it. You want to cut down between the bumps, because if you cut up through the bump, you'll be cutting off a piece of this. See how this is hanging there? It's because the top of the bump is holding it. If you cut through the bump, that would just come off. Then you get a space there. And same on this one. 3 bumps. And then 3 bumps. 1, 2, 3. Right there. Alright, and stick this. It's tacky, so you can stick it with your fingers. Come on. And once you get it stuck with your fingers, remember there isn't any on the end, so don't be surprised if that moves. And then you want to come back and hit it with the iron. See how it moved, but that's because that's where the paper is. So I'm going to peel this paper off and turn those 3 bumps under. Same on the other side. Take the paper off on your video and turn these 3 bumps under. And then I'll hit it with the iron again. In both ends. And then, not because it needs it, because that fringe is stuck until I sew it. But I'm going to put a pin in each end, and the pin is a reminder for me. So I have to give myself reminders. Is to remind me when I go to sew this, I can't start at the end. When I go to sew this, I have to start here. This is doubled over and it's too thick. If you go to sew it in from the edge, it's going to pull that first bump up and roll it, and you're going to get a gap here at the outside edge. So you have to start here, go backwards, and then all the way across. The other end won't matter, but I put a pin in both ends because I never know whether I'm going to be putting this end or this end underneath the foot. And it would be my luck to put the pin here and start here and go the wrong direction. So I put a pin in both ends just to remind me that I have to start here, go backwards, and then forwards. And I'm going to do the same thing with this end. Take the paper off, turn under 3 bumps. Even though this one is a little loose, it doesn't matter, it's going to get sewn, but I didn't lose it because I cut in the right spot. And the same on this side, take off the paper, turn under the 3 bumps. If you can think of another name, let me know in the comments. All I can say is they look like bumps. And then I'm going to stick a pin in each end of that. And then I'm going to sew this across, and then the stole is done. Now, there was an issue about whether or not to put this trim on here. And I could do that. I could put the trim across here. I would have to, again, do it like I did with the Burson. It's very pretty, but I think didn't, I think I'll let it go. It's underneath. Okay, this gets sewn. Manifold gets the same thing. First, let's line everything up. And from the points to the bottom, yeah, it's only 2.5. So I'm going to take off a half. So it'll be 2 inches up from the bottom. Let me measure 2 down from there. Because I was going to say this bottom is not straight. I think I'm just going to go, just because this yellow line is, I think I want to go a little bit above that yellow line. Measure this again. There's 1.5. There's 2. I think I'm going to go another 1/4 inch. Let's do another 1/2 inch. And that's a 1/4. That's a 1/4. That looks good. Don't know why it looks. They're both the same. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to trim this at the second line here. After I cut off the excess down here. Alright, trim the ends first. Stick a pin in it. Turn this end here, right there. Stick a pin in that. And then turn the middle. And stick a pin in that. And go back and fix the ends. This one's good. This one needs adjustment. The ends need adjustment because you got that extra fabric in there and it tends to want to pop it out. Alright, I'm going to hit this with the iron before I put the stitch witchery in it, just to keep it in place. And stitch witchery. Try it again. It's glued. All right. Now this one. Ends. Right there. Stitch witchery. And hit it. Okay, and then trim. Okay, so steam a seam. And steam a seam. And take off paper. And then put paper back. Okay, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit here. Okay, bumps. 3, and 3. Okay, and 1, 2, 3. And 3. And then take off paper. Turn 3. Take off paper. Turn 3. Kit. And then pin. And take off paper. Turn 3. Take off paper. Turn 3. And pin. almost forgot that. And then the only other thing this needs is a piece of elastic. And I'll do that now. So when I sew the fringe, I'll sew the elastic too. Alright, ruler. This is the center. I need the elastic. About 8 inches of it. 7-8 inches of it. I never measured, I eyeball it. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches. All right. So here's my center. You can tell because that's where the applique is. So I'm going to put a pin there just to mark the center because I'm going to measure in both directions from the center. And I'm going to go 3.5 to 4 inches in both directions. I don't need the iron anymore. So I'm going to go, since this is 8 inches, I'm going to go 4. And I'm going to put a pin here, and I'm going to put a pin at the 8-inch mark. If it was 3.5, it wouldn't matter. This is just it's going to go around his arm. It's got to be tight, but not too tight. So you want about 1/2 inch over the pin, and pin it down at that spot. And the elastic is facing away from the center. Now you're going to flip it around to the other side, put it about 1/2 inch over the pin, and pin it again. Now you're going to sew these by going backwards, backwards, and forwards, backwards, forwards. So you go over it 3 times. And you're going to want to have green bobbin thread. Otherwise, if you still have gold, I have green in from sewing this. Otherwise, you'd have a little bit of gold right here. Would I rip that out if I did that? No. Said I'm not a perfectionist. So it's going to go over his arm, and this elastic is going to grab all of his clothing. Okay, so this is ready to sew, and then it's done, and the only thing left to do is the hand sewing. I've already hand sewed the burse. I've closed the end of the burse. So the only thing left is the hand sewing on the chalice veil. There's my glasses. And then I'm done. Finally. Unplug the iron. Oh, I have to put tapes on the vestment too, but I guess I'll do that after I do this. It's a shoulder one, so it really doesn't need them.